Is John Huber enough? I mean, he's a very good prosecutor. He gets accolades from all over the place. But is he enough to investigate this whole slew of stuff that's cropped up?
Well, we hope so, but we don't know for sure. And that, coupled with the fact that we really think this should be an investigation outside of the Department of Justice altogether, is why we continue to call for a special counsel.
Congressman Bob Goodlatte, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, telling me on Saturday that while the man Sessions has hired to investigate possible FBI and DOJ manipulation of the FISA courts during the election, we still need a special counsel. To Judge Andrew Napolitano, Fox News senior judicial analyst. Goodlatte's a smart guy. He's also a very sober guy. He doesn't get involved in these extraordinarily partisan battles. But he does think that just this one prosecutor is not enough, that you need a special prosecutor outside of the Justice Department in order to get the job done. What do you think, Judge?
Well, remember, the special prosecutor, the person we call the special prosecutor, must come from outside the Justice Department. But all of his or her tools come from inside the Justice Department. So when Jeff Sessions said, John Huber is my guy, he meant one of two things. He meant either that Mr. Huber is going to move to Washington, D.C., where he'll be assigned a half-dozen federal prosecutors.
He's now in Utah, isn't he?
Right, and a dozen or two FBI agents, and they'll convene a grand jury and start gathering evidence and presenting it to the grand jury and getting subpoenas from the grand jury, or he's going to do it remotely from Utah. If he does it in Washington, D.C., he is a de facto special counsel. He will be doing the same thing that a new special counsel will be doing.
Let me just drill down on that for a second, because I asked Mr. Goodlatte, I said, look, does he have subpoena power? Yes. Does he have the power to convene a grand jury? Yes. In what way, then, is he different? Why would you need a special counsel if this guy, John Huber, can do exactly the same thing?
With respect to Congressman Goodlatte, if John Huber stays in Utah and does his work in Utah, he cannot summon a grand jury, and he cannot get subpoena power from the grand jury, because a grand jury in Utah cannot have jurisdiction over FBI agents and NSA agents and their records in Washington, D.C.
Well, is it a simple matter of moving to Washington, D.C. then?
Yes, and then he becomes a special counsel. He does the same thing that the special counsel does. What I'm suggesting here is that Jeff Sessions is playing word games on the public and on the Congress by appointing this fellow. He may be a great prosecutor for all we know, from Utah, because he can't do his work.
He was originally appointed by President Obama, but he was also appointed by President Trump. So he's got it from both Republicans and Democrats. But here's Mr. Goodlatte's point, because I interviewed him for a long time, and he was clear that he believes there is an entrenched bureaucracy. And part of the problem with this whole thing that happened with McCabe and Peter Strzok and Bruce Orr at the Department of Justice, all working together to try to manipulate the FISA court to keep Donald Trump out of the White House, that the entrenched bureaucracy was the problem, and you need somebody outside of that entrenched bureaucracy in order to investigate properly. That's why Jeff Sessions was appointing somebody who's in Utah to this position.
Well, Jeff Sessions, who is a lawyer because he's the Attorney General, must know that a grand jury in Utah is toothless with respect to acquiring evidence from FBI agents and the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. The grand jury has to sit where the documents and the witnesses are. Now, there are three issues being investigated: the abuse of FISA, the premature exoneration of Mrs. Clinton, and the premature exoneration of President and Mrs. Clinton in the Uranium One deal. All of those documents and all of the witnesses are government employees in Washington, D.C., which cannot be reached by a grand jury or a prosecutor in Utah.
Here's the problem, and I know you know it well because we've talked about it. You have this entrenched bureaucracy. Some people call it a deep state. Yes. That you're going to have to draw on in order to work with you if you're a special prosecutor. Is there a way to avoid that? I mean, Sessions believes that perhaps the way to avoid it is by having somebody outside of the Beltway to do the work, and you mentioned some of the problems there. But how do you do that? How do you get an independent prosecutor who's not going to be swayed by these forces inside the Beltway?
You bring John Huber to Washington, D.C., You have him find a dozen or so federal prosecutors who have no connection with the people they're investigating. You have them pick a dozen or two FBI agents who have no connection with the people being investigated. You summon a grand jury, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, and then finally, something close to your heart. You also, simultaneous to all of this stuff, you reformed the FISA system, because what we all know now is it became far too easy to spy on Americans as a result of our FISA court.
Did you notice that none of these abuses came out until after Congress voted to extend FISA? How many members of Congress sat on this?
What do you think?
Right, a lot.
I mean, the bottom line, though, is, are we going to have a revision of the FISA court system in order to prevent anything like this happening again? We're going to have other presidential elections, and chances are somebody else may try to use or manipulate the FISA system in order to spy on their political opponent.
You know, David, I could not agree with you more, but I am not naive. I don't expect a revision of FISA, because the Justice Department or the Congress does not regulate FISA. FISA regulates them.